So this is part B to my little series I was doing about my experience with selective mutism in the American public school system. So if you haven't watched part A, I will link it up here somewhere if you are watching on YouTube, and if you're watching on Facebook, then I will put it in the description below. So make sure you go watch that before you carry on with this video. Now, the first half was really about my experience with teachers particularly, and this half is really designated to my experience with bullies and my peers and just how I was received and what that was like. So let's get into selective mutism talks. So I wanted to let you guys know that it is like such a rainy and gloomy day today in Florida. So if you end up hearing like rain noise or thunder or anything like that, it is raining and the window is right over here. You guys can't see it, and so I don't know how well my speakers are going to pick that noise up, so just bear with me if you hear any of that in the background. Maybe it'll be soothing, but just wanted to let you guys know that is going on right now. I told you guys a little bit about how I went to the same school. This is going to be the same thing. Most of these experiences that I'm talking about are going to be in this public school that I went to from kindergarten to 7th grade. And so I'm going to tell you guys what eventually led me to leave that school and why and how things changed for me. So when I went to public school, I did not have a lot of friends throughout that whole time I went there. I was just the weird kid that nobody understood, and I was called the girl who doesn't talk in school. That was kind of like my nickname. There was a few exceptions of kids who were nice to me, and there's one particular girl who stood out. She was really, I would say, considered a more popular girl. She had a lot of friends. She was very bubbly and outgoing, and for whatever reason, she chose me to be her friend, and she really made an effort. Like, she went out of her way to make sure that I would be friends with her, because obviously you couldn't count on me to go up to you and make friends. So any friends that I did have, it was really because they were like consistently just being kind to me and trying to connect with me. And so I had this one friend that I can remember, but unfortunately she ended up switching schools. I don't even remember what grade it was, maybe 5th or 6th grade. I'm gonna say it was 5th grade. She ended up switching schools, and so after her, I really didn't have any other friends in school. I had friends, but none of them were in my year. And so the friends that I did have were just the kids that lived in my community on my block. I can also remember a time, and again, I want to say this was 5th or 6th grade, and they were doing like mock awards for a yearbook. And I can remember getting called because I had won a category for mock awards. And the category I had won is, big surprise, the shyest. Like, why? Can I just tell you how horrible that made me feel? Kids with selective mutism do not want to be called shy because they're not shy. It's not the same. Having selective mutism is not the same as being shy, and it would just irked me always so much to be called shy. But also it would be like categorizing anyone's disability and then nominating them for their disability and putting it in a yearbook. It is something I hated. I hated having selective mutism. The thunder is something right now, you guys. Can you hear it? So I hated it, and so for it to be nominated and then put in a yearbook, highlighted for everybody to see, made me feel so terrible. So I just want to say also, like, don't do that, okay? Don't ever nominate somebody as the shyest person or the quietest person. You don't call people with selective mutism shy. Don't call them quiet, because they don't want to be that way. They don't. And especially if you know their true self, like if you know how they are with their people they're comfortable with, they're probably completely different than they are in those other situations, because in those situations they're eclipsed by their fear and not being how they want to be. But I was just so humiliated, and I hated it. I hated it so much. And again, I didn't say anything because I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to really hate it and grind my teeth about it and go up there and get my picture taken because I am the shyest girl in school. But as I was getting closer to my 7th year, I was really becoming more and more lonely. I was really becoming more and more, I think, invisible by other kids. I mean, I can remember throughout my childhood eating lunch alone often, but especially when I moved up into, I guess you could consider high school. I'm talking like 6th, 7th grade. If you want to call that middle school or high school, I don't know. But those 2 years were really rough as far as friendships go. I would eat lunch by myself every day, and it's just very hard when people just don't even notice you. It was just like I wasn't even there. I did have this one boy who was in, I feel like he was just always in all of my classes. Like, I'm sure there was some years that he wasn't in there, but he was definitely in a lot of my classes. He was in my class where I had the potty accident. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you gotta go back and watch my last video. But he was just in a lot of my classes, and he was the one student who would consistently always give me problems year after year after year, which that tension between us grew. Again, I don't know why he had a problem with me. He was in my class with the teacher who I didn't like, that male teacher that was not kind to me. He was in that class with me. He was in my other class where I had that teacher again, which I'm going to talk about that in a minute. And he was in driver's training with me. He was just like, I swear to you guys, it was just the worst situation. So he was just always with me, and he was who I would consider my number one bully. Through my whole childhood. I don't know what it was, but I think he was just one of those people where the fact that I didn't talk really just annoyed him. It just annoys certain people. Also, and for him in particular, I think he saw in me a weakness, and I'll talk about this a little bit more, but I think he saw a weakness in me. The fact that I didn't talk, he knew that I would not tattle on him. He had figured that out sometime in those years, or maybe he figured it out right away. And so he knew that he could do things and that he wouldn't get in trouble because I would not tell. And so I think he thought it was kind of funny that he could do things to me and be a jerk and not get in trouble. And I want to say too, like, I don't hold any animosity towards him. I'm not, I honestly, when I look back now, I kind of wonder, like, what was his childhood like for him to be a kid and still seek out another kid who he thought had a weakness, to be somebody who he wanted to, I guess, attack, to kind of pinpoint. I feel like things probably weren't great in his family for that to even be like how he was thinking. So anyways, he just would do things here and there. Even as when I was younger, he would just kind of say things to me here and there, or do things, or I don't know. It wasn't anything that was super serious though. It was more just like these one-off kind of situations. But as the years went on, he started to really up his attacks against me, his attention towards me, and he would say things to me like, I know you're not gonna tell. And so I think it was a game to him, and again, it was because he would tell me these things, and I think he really wanted to see me explode. Like, it was almost like his goal to try and get me to talk. It was like his goal to try and get me to like blow up, because I was so reserved, and so it was like, how far can I push her until she's just gonna have like this outburst? And so he would kind of just tell me that he was doing things like that just to see like what I would do or wouldn't do. I don't know. So as my years went on, he started to tell his friends the same thing, like, well, you can do anything to her, she's not gonna tell on you. And so that's what made it really worse, is because he would kind of get his friends involved and try and encourage them to do things to me. And so it became like this thing where people would wait for me at my locker just to, say things too rude to me, or just be, I guess, kind of inappropriate, not where they were like touching me. I mean, okay, well, one of the instances of something that would happen is if I wore my hair in like a hair bun. And this is like very inappropriate, you guys, I'm sorry. But if I wore my hair up in a hair bun, they would like stick their pencil in my hair bun and say like crude things. And so I don't feel like, looking back, I would have had as many difficulties with especially the boys in my school as I did if it hadn't been for this one boy, because he really was the one who like tried to encourage his other friends to like get me to have an outburst, I guess. Always just felt like there was more eyes on me, which really just makes you like, his intentions were for me to have an outburst, but the more that he gave me this unwanted attention and the more like other people started to give me this unwanted attention, it really has the opposite effect for someone with selective mutism. It's not going to make them have an outburst. It's going to make them close up more. And so that's really what happened is I just would get more and more quiet and reserved and hate going to school more. And so this one boy, his name, I'm not going to say, but our last names were very close in the alphabet, which is why I think we had all of the same classes together almost. This is so annoying too, and I don't know if schools still do it this way, but we were always grouped together because of our last names being in alphabetical order. So we were often in the same classes. In driver's training, he was in my car with me. You were grouped up, you and one other person, and he was the one person I was grouped with, again, because of our last names. He was often my partner for projects, you guys. It's like, right, like how does this happen in real life? How is it you're one person who's your biggest bully and antagonizer is also the person who you're just like always grouped up with and put together with? Like, it was just horrible. And again, like, he knew I would not say anything. Like, even though I hated to be in any project with him, I was never going to go tell the teacher, like, hey, can I have a different partner? Because I'm not going to talk, and I'm definitely not going to do anything that I felt was going to be construed as not making the teacher happy or being difficult, you know, because I just did not want to be viewed badly at all. So I was just not going to ever say anything. I didn't even say things to my parents. You know, we were always grouped together. We had lockers next to each other. He was my locker buddy. So that's annoying. It was just unbelievable, honestly. And so my 7th year, I had this class with this boy, and it was a computer class. It was like a typing class. I don't know if any of you guys had these classes. And I know it was some kind of computer class. And we had it together, and it was with this teacher that I had mentioned in the previous videos, this male teacher who did not like me as well. This is basically just like what ended up breaking me. And it might not seem like a big thing, but again, this was just a continuation. It was like this continuous pressing. So this particular day, I was in computer class and we were all partnered together. The teacher put us in groups of 2, and so of course, as I told you guys, we were always grouped together because of our last names. So of course, this boy was my partner to work on whatever this typing assignment was that we had to get done. So in order to do this assignment, obviously you had to be sitting at your computer working on it. Well, he did not want to be around me, and so he was up. I was sitting and working on the assignment. He was up literally the whole time, the whole class period. I'm not even like I wish you guys could be like a camera on the wall back then, because he didn't even sit next to me one time. He was up the entire class period. Every other kid is sitting except for him. So you would think you would notice him, right? Because he's just up wandering the entire class and talking to his friends. He's going from like, computer to computer where his friends are. I just did the project because it was what was assigned to me, but I'm obviously not going to communicate with him like, hey, I'm doing all the work. You need to come help me. And he knew that. He knew I was going to sit there and do the assignment, and so I did it. The teacher never once said anything to him. And again, the teacher had to have known. Like, there's no way the teacher could have not known he was up walking around. Like, it was just that obvious that he was not doing the work. I finished the thing. I think we had to go to a printer and print it off or something. He went and grabbed it, and he was like, oh, you finished this? He took the paper and he walked over to the teacher and he gave it to the teacher and he said, hey, I did this whole project and Danielle didn't help me at all. You guys. And, he was very smirky to me about it. I think he even made some comments like, I'm going to tell the teacher I did this. I don't remember exactly, but I just assumed that the teacher would know that he was lying. Like again, because I was the one sitting at the computer the whole time, and he never even sat down. And so he told the teacher that he had done the work and that I hadn't helped him at all. And the teacher called me up to the desk and, you know, he didn't like me. So I shouldn't have been surprised, but he got mad at me and he told me that basically there was going to be consequences for my actions tomorrow when I came into class. So I didn't know what that meant. Like, I thought that I was going to have to go talk to the principal or something. I really didn't know, but he just let me know that what I had done was unacceptable and not okay. And, you know, he gave me this little talking to, and that was it. And that was how I got a 0% on the assignment I did. And, you know, I didn't say anything because I'm not gonna. And so the next day I went into that classroom, and I think it was like my last hour class in the day, and I was going to it. And as I was about to turn into my classroom, I hear on the loudspeaker over the whole school for Danielle to come talk to the school counselor. And so my teacher said, you know, you're gonna have to go talk to her. And I knew instantly this was because of what happened the day before. And so I knew I was about to get in trouble of some kind. I was not expecting the school counselor. I'd never talked to her before. She called me into her office, and so I went in there. She wanted to know what happened, so she asked me, like, what happened and how are things going in school, basically, is what she wanted to know. You would think somebody who's clearly has problems in school probably would have talked to the school counselor before this day in 7th grade, but I had never. And again, it's just another example of totally being overlooked. But she called me into her office this day because of this incident with this boy. And I also want to say that I am fairly certain that he was never spoken to. Obviously, I'm not in his life, so I can't say that 100%. Nobody ever called his parents. No, you know, I can't say for sure. But I'm fairly certain that the only person who was in trouble, the only person who was spoken to was me. And that no words had ever been spoken to him. And so I was called into her office to get talked to about this situation in school and what was going on. Like, basically, why wouldn't you do your work? For whatever reason, I spoke to her. I think it was because we were in an office alone, and I felt like I couldn't take it anymore. Like, the incident with the assignment and all that, like, it really bothered me. It bothered me because it was so obvious that I had done what I had supposed to do, and yet here I was getting in trouble. And so that had already really set me off as far as like just being very annoyed with the school. And so I was over dealing with him. I was over being stuck in groups with him. I was over having a locker next to him. I was over having classes with him. And so I had determined I was going to tell her, and I'm certain that I told her in the quietest of whispers, and she barely heard anything I said, and I used very minimal words, but I let her know that this boy was a constant source of grief for me. I just told her flat out, like, he is a bully to me. He does these things, and I was truly thinking that if I had spoken about what I was struggling with, if I had told somebody, like, I am having issues, that they would stand up for me. And I remember in the year before, this is really what, like, I remember sitting in her office and thinking about this as she was talking to me. But the year before, they had made us watch these videos about bullying. And I remember how it would go through every scenario, like, girls can be bullies to girls, boys can be bullies to girls, teachers can be bullies, you know, and it just went through like all the different ways, like, no matter who you are, these people can be bullies to you, to try and help us to understand that anybody can be a bully and that you need to speak up if somebody's a bully. And so I remember thinking about that video when I was in her office, and I was sitting there and I was telling her these things, like, and so I was expecting fully to be heard, especially because I'm speaking. Like, I never did that. And so the fact that I'm even speaking, I thought that I would be hurt. I remember like telling her all these things and she just kind of smiled at me and was just like, well, Danielle and you guys, I swear to you, this is what she said to me, that I should really be flattered because this boy probably just has a crush on me. And that was her way of helping me that day. That was the advice that she had for me. I stopped talking to her when she said that. I was so mad, you guys. I don't remember if I went back to class, but I feel like I had to call my mom to come get me. And so I think that maybe they just sent me home early or what, I don't remember. But that was the last day I went to that school. And I just want to say too, like, when in society did we start telling girls that if somebody is rude to them and a bully to them, even if he had a crush on me, which I totally know he didn't. Okay, I think as a girl you can determine the difference if a boy is picking on me because he's being flirtatious and he likes me, or if he's just a bully. I knew the difference. I knew he didn't have a crush on me, but let's say even he did. When in society did we say that it's acceptable for a boy to be mean to a girl and a girl should be flattered by that kind of behavior? Like, no. And I wanted to say to her at the time, like, well, is that okay? Would that work for you in the office? If you had a man who was day in and day out looking for you to provoke you, to bother you, to say verbally abusive things to you, to make your work harder every day, to try and tear you down every day, would it be okay for you to be in that work environment if he had a crush on you? Would you have been flattered? I'm sure her answer would have been no. And I remember just thinking that I was sitting in her counseling chair, like how wrong it was, her advice to me, and how I just couldn't believe it. I was in complete shock that this is what I was told, knowing full well. I knew at that moment, like, this school is never gonna be a voice for me. This school is never gonna help me. Ever. Like, things could get so much worse from here and they're not gonna do anything about it. And so for me, that was the breaking point, because I just knew, I felt like I was just nothing at that school. Like, I just felt like they did not care about me. And so I had gone home that day and I told my mom, I'm not gonna go back to that school. That's it. And again, I think she may have had to come get me, so she probably already knew that there was like some kind of problem. And so she came and got me, and I just told her, like, that's it. I mean, I've been coming home crying for years. And so she knew that I didn't like that school. And so when she heard me say those words, like, that's it, no more. And then also knowing that there was an incident, and I'm just so thankful for my parents. Like, she did not even question, maybe we should try one more day. Like, she knew for me to even say that it was a done deal. And so she said, okay. And that's when she switched me to this other school. And it was the best decision we ever made. And so anyways, to end this on a good note, I switched schools, and I can remember, like, that first week, kids treating me so nice that I thought it was like a joke. I could not believe that people could be so genuinely nice to me, with me being the same way, with me being, in my mind, like, I was everything bad in my mind at that time. I had such a poor self-image of myself. I didn't think I was pretty. I didn't think I was smart. I didn't think I was much of anything. Like, I just had a very poor image of myself. And so for people, like kids, to tell me, like, oh, you're so pretty, or you have such nice hair, just any kind of compliment that kids gave me when I went to this new school, or just even the fact that they would talk to me and smile at me, or anything. Like, I honestly, for like the first week or so, I thought it was some kind of joke. Like, I would sit there and be like, are they trying to be nice to me so that they can try and pull some kind of prank on me later? That's how, like, warped my thinking had become being at the school. Like, I just didn't think people could have good motives, because I just hadn't seen it. And I really had so many walls up when I was at that school, because I always thought that maybe people's intentions, though they were saying nice things to me, were to kind of try and trick me. Like, they didn't really mean it. And so it took a long time for me to really start to put my walls down and just accept these kids in this school as people who are just truly nice. And that's my story of the public school system. Wasn't the greatest, but I also don't think all public schools are bad. And I had a lot of cousins and I had brothers who went to this school, and their experiences were not the same as mine. They loved it. Again, they didn't have selective mutism, but you know, every person is going to react in different environments differently, and all I can do is speak towards mine and hope that in some way it gives us insight and gives us wisdom to move forward wisely, especially in helping kids with selective mutism. So in a nutshell, I hope that this video did that for you. I hope that it gave you some wisdom, give you some encouragement, and help direct your path in the way that you move forward, either with your child with selective mutism or even how you deal with people with different disabilities. They want to be seen. They don't want to be invisible. As much as you might think that they just don't want to be bothered with because they're not talking, they do. They want people to know that they can't stand the fact that they're acting the way that they are. They just cannot help it. And so just let them know that they're loved, that they're cared for. Having a community of people who truly just love them how they are. Like, I feel like that is the one thing that helped me break out of my selective mutism more than anything else, was just having a community of people who were kind and caring to me and not expecting me to change at all. Like, there was no pressure on me to be this or to do that. It was just, I'm gonna love you where you're at, how you are, and let you know that you're cared for and that you're not invisible. And I swear to you, that makes a huge difference. So if your kid doesn't have that community, whether it's like an extracurricular thing or just the community that they're around, that they live in, like, just find some kind of support system that's not going to put pressure on them to be something that they aren't, because they don't want to be that way. They don't need more pressure, but a community of people who is just going to say, I love you. And I'm telling you that just having constant encouragement and constant love is really going to help them grow stronger and grow more confident. And so if you like this video, make sure you show me some sweet kindness and hit that subscribe button and hit that like button. And if you're watching this on Facebook and you're not following me yet, make sure you follow me on Facebook. And I just want to say thank you so much for all of your support. I will talk to you guys later. Bye.